Live. Broadcasting live on StarWorldWideNetworks.com. It's time for The Real Deal. Join the ambassador and special guest hosts as they put together great guests and honest commentary on a range of issues. But one of their main topics will be preserving Native American tributes in sports team nicknames. Also avid fans of music and the arts, and they'll always make time for a great song or two. Now, it's time for The Real Deal. Here's your host, the Ambassador.
Welcome to The Real Deal, ladies and gentlemen, at the famous Star Worldwide Networks in the Camelback Towers in beautiful downtown Scottsdale, Arizona. And yes, we are definitely off the reservation tonight. With me tonight is my producer, Kyle Pratt, the son of the infamous Dave Pratt. Say hello, Kyle.
How's it going, Ambassador?
Hey, we're all in. Also with me is my co-host, Maggie from Hong Kong. Say hi, Maggie.
Hi.
And we got a special guest, Susan Sember, is in the studio with us. Say hi, Susan.
Hi.
And I'll be formally introducing her here in a little bit. Want to thank our sponsor, Graves Propane, with offices in northern Arizona, family-owned business. John and Susan Graves, please buy your propane from Graves Propane. These are buddies of mine. They've been serving Native Americans for a long time. UMate International, HUMATE.com. That's my company. Take a look at it. There's a lot of things we can do with you, for you. It's an organic fertilizer, soil amendment. It's a mineral, and I produce it up in Navajo and Gallup, New Mexico. We ship it worldwide. Our biggest customer is the Dole Food Company, and they take it in different parts of the world for everything that they grow, pineapples, mangoes, bananas. We also just got our permits to ship it into Vietnam, so we're going to be taking it into Vietnam now. Isn't that cool?
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're going to be shipping it to Vietnam. And then our sponsor, Swisher Air Conditioning, largest industrial air conditioning company in the Southwest. They're in 32 states. They donate a unit to a low-income Native American family every month in Arizona. This is about a $10,000 deal at no cost to the family. And please consider being a sponsor on our show. It's a tax write-off. You can come into the studio. We can work out a deal for you to keep us on the air. As I always say, we're here to tell the truth and deliver the message. We want to thank our listeners all over the country, Native Americans and Americans. And I also want to thank our listeners at Channel 3 and other local channels, and my favorite lady, anchor Jamie Soretta, a.k.a. #Valley Treasure. Hi, Jamie. Thanks for listening. American Indian Center of the Great Plains, ladies and gentlemen, is in Johnny Leonard, and I are principals at the American Indian Center, and we'll be talking more about that throughout the show, and we're doing some great things there in the middle of the country. We're a beacon of light for Native Americans and Indian tribes in general all around the country. Now I want to say something to listeners in Navajo. We have a lot of listeners in the Navajo Nation, and I want to say something to them. Dennis Yellow Horse Jones and Shay. Quetzalá, 505 Redskins Fan Club. Quetzalá, Flagstaff Redskins Fan Club. Quetzalá, Navajo Nation. Now I want to have my Che, Peter McDonald, say something to you as well.
Yate, shas toy sezane, setelke, sheje kent neshike, no kliniki, o shidi Peter McDonald, dashilne, aska hat zahon slobet, ane bashishin, Adotsakarne dashinale ashi dashiche. Todich in eba esetta shada halia. Kododi nini eba hanne. No, Kodoy Ambassador Dennis Yellowhorse Niji Yaltijo Yoshwal. Akoda nini be eba hanne. The real deal will yell. Jo koy hashine land. Ne says yes, yadal lahod aba oh lahab lahadal now. Die do kot eda Ebony na hada kisigi kodo the real deal no yahal negi dida nini jo ede ba honne ako ikena aslagi sto banda yohni to banda notra Graves Company will love la shibe da no Sunday da jo e kodo kwishi hot di ikena asla e kodo Thank you,
Peter. For your information, ladies and gentlemen, he is the 4-time chairman of the Navajo Nation, and he is the president of the Navajo Code Talkers. And he got to be a code talker when he joined the Marine Corps back in World War II. He was like, I think he lied about his age to get into the Marine Corps. And so he got in there, and there was all these Navajos there, and Camp Pendleton near San Diego. And so he didn't know why all these Navajos were there. But what the game plan was our government wanted to develop a code using the Navajo language. And so he joined the Marine Corps, and he got in there, and there was a bunch of Navajos there, and he found out that they wanted to develop a code, and so they did, and it was a code that the Japanese and the Germans and our enemies could not break, and so it's very interesting how this happened. And for example, they took our alphabet, and the letter A was the Navajo word for apple. And so they said, what are we going to call the letter A? So they all agreed, all these kids agreed, we're going to call the letter A apple. So the Navajo word for apple is belasana. And then they said, okay, what are we going to call the letter B? And the Navajo word for B is bear, shush. And so the letter C is the Navajo word for cat, mussy. And so that's what they did. And if you really want to hear we've had some great guests. We're going to have a good one on here in a little bit. But he was probably the most interesting guy that I've had on this show, and I've known him for a long, long time. He was related to my wife, clan-wise, and he come down last February or March, and we did 4 back-to-back shows. We recorded them, and we come in here and we did them, didn't we, Kyle?
Yeah, I like to call them the golden
shows,
the golden bundle.
Yeah, the golden bundle. This is no kidding. I mean, this is the real deal. So if you go back to our shows and look at the archive shows and just scroll down, you'll see Peter MacDonald, M-A-C, capital D-O-N-A-L-D. And those 4 shows are the golden shows, man. And I'll tell you, you listen to those 4 shows and you're going to freak out. I'm telling you, it's the real deal, ultimate. And he talks about when he was a kid and how he got involved with the Code Talkers and the Marine Corps, and then how he worked for Howard Hughes, and how he left Howard Hughes and then went to work for the Navajo people. So they're really, really good shows, and I'm really fortunate to know this man, and he's my Che and my mentor, and I love him, and he lives in Tuba City, Arizona, and if anybody ever wants to get a hold of him, he still does some public speaking and some performance, and he'll show up. He has to have a handler with him because he's 89 years old. You can contact The Real Deal at yellowhorse.com. Not yellowhorse.com, yellowhorse.us or yellowhorseindustries.com, 602-540-3000. And I'll put you in touch with him. And he spoke in Detroit at General Motors. He was up on the field at the Oakland Raider game. He was at the Tennessee Titan game with us in Nashville. So he's available. But you got to catch him quick because, and he also has a book. He's got a book out that you can buy from him, and he'll autograph it for you. So if you can't find the Navajo Code Talkers on the web, just go to The Real Deal or yellowhorse.us, and I'll put you in touch with them. Now I want to go to another friend of mine. He's a business associate. His name is Mark Burr. He works with me in New York for Jay Stryker. And that's one of the big 4 market makers in New York. And they have clients all over the world. And when they come to New York, sometimes they come out to Indian country, and that's how I get involved with them. And he has been all over the world. He's a Marine, and he speaks fluent Spanish, and he's going to address our listeners in northern Mexico and southern Arizona that speak Spanish, because a lot of the tribes lost their language. So their language of choice is Spanish in New Mexico, Arizona, and California. A lot of them in California. So, Mark, if you would, please.
Claro que sí, don Dennis. Nuevamente, bienvenidos a nuestra audiencia de hispanoparlantes y a todos nuestros patrocinadores, Graves Propane de Flagstaff y YouMade Internacional de Gallup, Nuevo México, y a todos los radio oyentes a través de la nación y del Real Deal y nuestro anfitrión, el embajador.
Gracias, Mark. Now, my co-host here, if I can get her to stop texting or whatever she's doing, she's from Hong Kong. She's a famous fashion and jewelry designer, and she moved here about a year and a half ago, and her jewelry is in some galleries here in Scottsdale, and she's also officially going to be the featured artist at the Phoenix Symphony. That's going to be a big deal for her.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kyle.
And I took her down there, and they fell in love with her jewelry, and they said, yep, we want you to come in when they're doing the symphony, and it starts October 15th, and it goes for, I think, 5 months?
Yep.
Yeah, 5 months. So she's going to be there with her jewelry, and she'll knock them dead, I'll tell you, because her jewelry, and you can check her website out. It's jewelryscottsdale.com or maggieswearableart.com, and it's really bling. And she sells to all the movie stars. One of her clients is Lucy Liu. And Lucy Liu, I thought she was the most beautiful Chinese woman until Maggie come up the runway here.
Wow, thank you, Chief.
So, Maggie, say something to all your listeners. She's got a lot of listeners in China because they're downloading the app and they want to know what the hell's going on over here. Say something.
Okay, thanks, Chief. 其实这个节目是说美国的印第安人的历史文化。Western Post 访问所有美国的印第安人，他们都喜欢 Western Redskin 这个名字，但是有的人想改变这个名字。切尼斯·王马先生为了保护这个名字和印第安人的历史文化，他本人做出了好大的贡献和支持。我们一起期待每一位的支持和参与。切尼斯·王马先生还有出售有机涂眼叫优美。如果有需要打我美国电话6025151073。So thanks so much, Chief, for having me on Real Deal. That is such my honor.
Thank you, Maggie. You're so sweet. That's good. You told them everything, right?
Yes, I told all the listeners in China, no ticket, no laundry. Big Daddy, let me long time.
Your mom would have liked that, Kyle.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to... Kyle, you need to call the pilots and tell them to fire up the Real Deal Airlines and kick the tires, light the fires, and fly us to Washington, D.C.
You to the table, you see the same damn thing. Ain't no food upon the table, there's no pork up in the pan. But you better not complain, boy, if you get in trouble with a man. Let the midnight special shine a light on me. Let the midnight special shine a light on me. Let the midnight special shine a light on me. Let the midnight special shine every loving light on me. Well, yonder come these roses. to see the governor. She wanted to bring her mind. She let the midnight special shine a light on me. Let the midnight special shine a light on me. Let the midnight special shine a light on me. Let the midnight special shine every loving light on me. Well, if you ever in Austin, Lord, you better do right. Well, you better not gamble, and you better not fight. Oh, the sheriff, he grab you, and the boys will bring you down. No, no. Well, the next thing you know, boy, Lord, your prison bound. Let the midnight special shine a light on me. Let the midnight special shine a light on me. Let the midnight special shine a light on me. Let the midnight special shine every loving light on me.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're in Washington, D.C. via Real Deal Airlines. Before we go to my first guest, I want to say a few things to our listeners, and then I'll formally introduce you to my famous guest here. Star Worldwide Networks, ladies and gentlemen, is the largest, fastest-growing internet radio station in the country. 200 shows, 6 million listeners. Kyle, tell them who's number one.
That's the real deal.
That's right. The real deal. And it's because of everybody, and I always say thanks to all the fans of the teams that honor Native Americans. We want to thank the Kansas City Chiefs, Washington Redskins, Golden State Warriors, Atlanta Braves, Cleveland Indians, Chicago Blackhawks for listening and honoring Native Americans by using the names. This political correctness is way out of line, and we're totally against it. We don't subscribe to it. As far as we're concerned, this is social and cultural genocide to Native Americans. Same thing that was done in Germany to the German people, and we just don't subscribe to it, and that's why our show went to number one, because we're here to tell the truth and deliver the message. Now I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, a dear friend, and the guy is an incredible person. His name is Jack Berkman. He's a lobbyist, and he's listed as one of the top lobbyists in Washington, D.C. He's the founder and president of J.M. Berkman Associates, and he does a lot of work on the Hill, and he works with both sides of the aisle. He's also a syndicated radio talk show host. And, again, his media experience, he's the host of the national syndicated radio show Behind the Curtain with Jack Berkman, airing in 185 markets on Radio America. Each week he focuses on news stories that are under the surface or not being covered by the mainstream media. Featuring strong investigative reporting and analysis, Mr. Berkman uses his experience to reveal the secrets that K Street tries to hide from the public. The program is also simulcast on Newsmax TV. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend, Mr. Jack Berkman. Jack, welcome to The Real Deal.
Dan, it's such a pleasure to be on The Real Deal. I'll tell you, I haven't had that big a build-up in 25 years, but I don't think much of it's true, but I thank you nonetheless.
Well, thank you. Jack, I just got to tell you, I got to ask you first. This thing that happened today that was discovered by the Wall Street Journal about this $400 million being loaded in cash on a cargo plane that we weren't supposed to know about, but due to some investigative reporting by the Wall Street Journal, what's people saying about that? I mean, that just looks like that looks so awful.
Well, it's, Dennis, I'll be very honest with you. I've become very blasé about all of it after the Clintons. And, I did a segment. We taped our show today, and I did a segment on Clinton cash. And we had our friend Dick Morris on, and he was laying out some things nobody knew. And The Clintons, since year 2000, have taken, you ready for this, $220 million in speaking fees. Most of them are just outright bribes, for foreign policy actions as Secretary of State. So, I'm a Washingtonian. Sadly, my reaction to the 400 is I've become numb to it. I'm not even surprised by it anymore. There's so much with them, I can't keep track of it, is the real answer.
Yeah, well, I guess you would be, because you're there every day, and it's just one thing after another.
To it.
Yeah.
I'm just numb to it. There's so much. I can't even keep track of it. We have so many stories to cover. You can't cover them all. The press won't go after her. The press won't go after Obama. They love them both, and that's the way it is. We're defeated for the moment. We have to rally. We need more people like you getting the message out. You're leading the way in the Southwest. We've got to have people like you doing just what you do, Dennis.
Well, yeah. And I'm no expert. You're the expert. I'm just out here kind of a wing guy, just winging it. But so far, I guess I'm doing pretty good. I'm number one over here. You're
doing great in the Southwest, and we're hearing of you in D.C., Dennis. And we're hearing about this show, and I read about you in Talkers Magazine. You are catching on, brother.
That's good. Well, you're going to have to come see me. But so, do you think that the establishment, Republicans, and I know they have their problems with Trump, and everybody does, because he says things that he shouldn't say, but probably because he's not a politician. And he don't use the teleprompter, but do you think they're going to try to come around and give it their best shot?
Well, Trump is confusing. I think he's kind of, what's the word, inscrutable. I think he's actually playing it very smart. If you look at this con thing, see, the old Roger Ailes and Lee Atwater school of politics is you define the terrain and you define your opponent before they define you, right?
Right.
So Hillary Clinton, in some sense, she's walking right into it. She put Khan up on the stage. That's all fine for the few intellectuals that care about the details of that issue. But the main thing is we're continuing the discussion of Islam. You see, Paul Manafort very skillfully wants to keep the issue of Islam in front of the American people. As long as Islam is the issue, it doesn't really matter how it's being discussed. It means Trump wins. And Hillary Clinton is getting sucked into this. Now, it's her race to lose. She's got the wind at her back. She's got the media. The electoral map favors her. She's got a lot of money. Let's face it, this is her race to lose. But one way in which she could lose it, Dennis, is if she allows the campaign to be defined by Trump as Islam, Islamic terrorism, national security, any of these issues, and Trump will win. What she needs to do to win is to keep the election defined as economic issues. Now, the problem is she doesn't have a good story there because Obama's got 2% growth for the last 8 years. What do you say about Obama? You can't talk about health care. It's a disaster. Everybody hates it. What do you talk about? There's not a lot to talk about. So she says, well, we're going to build a national infrastructure bank. I mean, your guess is as good as mine as to what that is, right?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, me either. Yeah. I was involved in Navajo politics years ago, and I'd never been exposed to politics in my life, and I got involved in it. But one thing I learned about it is when people get pissed off at you, they vote against you. And
that's right.
And I think that's what's happened with the American people is they're just
angry.
Yeah, they're pissed off. They're angry, and they'll vote for Hitler.
They're angry. You're right.
They're pissed off.
You're right.
And they're going to vote for Trump because they're just pissed off at the status quo, and they feel that, these Republicans, Democrats, whoever they are, once they get to Washington, they're career politicians, and they don't give a shit about us.
Hillary Clinton is right now very afraid about this thing, and the reason is that she doesn't know, for just this reason, just what we're talking about here, she doesn't know how to campaign. She doesn't have a lot to campaign on. So she's almost like Dukakis in that when they don't have anything to campaign on, they start trying to campaign on their resume. They say, well, I went to Yale Law School, and I'm capable, and I'm smarter than he is, and I have this resume. I was Secretary of State. Problem is that that's not enough to campaign on. It might be a nice start if you're running for Congress or something, but that doesn't work if you're running for president. And she doesn't have enough to campaign on, and that's a big problem.
Right.
Because, in one sense, then it's like, Hillary Clinton wants to be the agent of change, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is she also wants to be the agent of continuity, right? Because Obama, she said, well, if you like Barack Obama, you'll like me. But nobody likes Barack Obama. It's a problem. It's a problem.
Right. Oh, yeah. The governor there in Virginia, or not the governor, her running mate there in Virginia.
Tim Kaine, Senator, Tim Kaine, yes.
Yeah, just curious, since the Washington Redskins are in Virginia, I wonder how he feels about the Washington Redskins name.
Oh, I don't know. I'm sure he's with the liberals on that. I'm sure he would love to. I'm sure he signed on to all the letters. I can check for you. I'm sure that Tim Kaine is supporting that ridiculous issue of name change, and maybe when they're done with the Redskins, they can go attack the Kansas City Chiefs and
they
the
will.
Atlanta Braves.
No, they do. You know what's amazing? What's amazing, Jack, is, and I think I told you this when I met you when we had lunch the other day in D.C. The guy that's behind this name change scam is this guy named Ray Halbritter, and he's a fake Indian, and he owns this Oneida casino up in New York State. And the guy's not even an Oneida Indian, and he bribed the Clinton administration to take over the Oneida Indian tribe. And this is years ago. And Claudia Tenney, who you know, the assemblywoman from New York, she knows him better than anybody. She's been on my show 10 times talking about him. But anyway, he's the one that funds these name changers, and he's a billionaire, and he wants to go around patting himself on the back in Indian country. I'm the one that got rid of the Washington Redskins name. Now I'm going after the Kansas City Chiefs. So they have a game out here when the Kansas City Chiefs play the Arizona Cardinals. He funds a protest, and these name changers will come down here, and most of them are a bunch of white college kids and maybe 4 or 5 Indians, and they'll have signs and professional signs that says, "We're not your chief. We're not your mascot. We're not your chief." Yeah, and so we confront them and we ask them. We say, "Okay, you hate the Washington Redskins, right? Oh yeah, we hate them. Got to get rid of them. Well, and you hate the Atlanta Braves. Oh yeah, yes, got to get rid of them. And now you hate the Kansas City Chiefs. Yes, they got to go. Got to go. Got to go." So we asked them. We said, "Well, what do the word Chiefs? Does the word fire chief, does that offend you?" "Oh yes, that's racist." "How about the word police chief?" "Oh, absolutely, that's racist." So then we ask these clowns, "Well, what about commander in chief?" "Oh, yes, absolutely. That is just total racist." But, I mean, it's just a total bunch of BS, It's a phony civil rights scam, and it's kind of like the Black Lives Don't Matter. And I have a lot of black friends that come in, and they've been on my show, and they don't agree with this of burning up cop cars and smashing and looting stores in Baltimore and stuff like that, and so
Well, what the mayor in Baltimore should have done, you pump 3 shots into the crowd. I hate to say it, you pump 3 shots into that crowd, and you end that stuff for all time. That's what you should do.
Right.
But instead of doing that, they allow businesses to be destroyed. They allow police officers to be killed. There's so many stories. There were these Asian Americans that had spent years building up these businesses in Baltimore, and these businesses were destroyed, all because the police wouldn't defend them. It's a very sad story, Dennis. So many sad stories that are hard to recount,
Right.
Hard to even recount.
Yeah, it is. And then you hear their agenda now. They come out with an agenda yesterday or 2 days ago where they want reparations for Black Lives Matter, want to get rid of the police department. They want reparations, and
it's all madness. Reparations for what? Is this the slavery reparations issue going back 155 years? I mean, these things are just, all of these things divide the country. In other words, when Obama, in 2004, you remember in Boston, when Obama gave that speech, which is remembered as a great speech, and I think it was a great speech, but what he said was, I don't want the red states of America. I don't want the blue states of America. I want the United States of America. The problem is Obama has done everything to divide us.
Right.
He's done nothing to unite us and everything to divide us, and all he does, every chance he gets, to fan the flames of racial hatred. I mean, the American people don't want anything more to do with racial hatred, but Obama does.
Right.
And the Democrats want to use it. And they use it. It's a shame.
It is. And the liberal media play the race card.
Always. Always, of course they do. They're
always playing the race card. And I seen a clip today where CNN, they got caught. They didn't know where they were on camera. And one of the commentators got caught, and he says, "We're doing everything we can to help Hillary." And he actually said that. And I don't know if
it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Hey, none of that doesn't surprise me in the least.
Yeah. And
we know it's true.
Yeah, and it's the real deal. I mean, it's right on clip, and this guy didn't realize that the camera is still on him.
We're doing everything we can to help Hillary. Well, they've certainly done enough. Although I'll tell you, Hillary Clinton's probably a 65-35 favorite, Dennis. But like I said, she could lose the race. If Trump continues on the course he's on, Florida and Ohio are toss-ups. He's down 5 points in Pennsylvania. He's going to have to close there. They're going to have to find a way. Actually, what I think Trump should be doing is I would have put Tim Scott, the black senator from South Carolina, on the ticket. I think that Trump should be making a big play for African Americans. He's not doing it, and I think that's something they need to focus on, because if you could get the black vote in Philadelphia and in Detroit, it could change the whole complexion of the election. But that's what he's got to do. I think that's what Trump's got to do.
And Tim Scott's from South Carolina?
Yes, he's U.S. Senator from South Carolina. He's a great guy. I pushed him hard for the ticket. I thought he would have been a super guy for the ticket. But the Trump campaign was insistent on Pence, who's certainly not a bad choice, but he's not an exciting choice. I just think the sad part about black America, and the same is true of Native Americans, too, we get, Trump's the high end of the black vote. He probably, for a Republican, gets about 10%, which is viewed as good. Bush got about 4%, Romney got 5%, something like that. If we could take that 10 and only turn it into 18, we could win every election. Think about that. All we have to do is win 18 or 20% of the African-American vote, and we could win every election for 18%. And yet we don't even try. And that's something we have to get better at. And the same is true with the Indian vote. If you look at the Southwest, we can't just concede New Mexico. We can't concede Colorado. We've got to get every vote. Right. I want every Native American vote in those states. We've got to find a way to get it. Well,
the way to get it is economic development, because they see the problem with Native Americans is the Democrats portray them as victims.
Yeah.
See, they're the victims. Native Americans are the victims, and we're going to take they're enablers. And I told Corey Lewandowski before, when he was still there, I had communications with him. They all need to read The Art of the Real Deal, and say, hey, we got to. And that's what Peter McDonald was good at. My grandfather, my Navajo Che, and he was chairman of the Navajo Nation. You knew him. He run it like he was a CEO. He run it like a business. And if you wanted to meet with him, the CEO of Burlington Northern, if they want to run a railroad through the Navajo Nation, you send the CEO of Burlington Northern in here, and we'll sit down and we'll negotiate. And he made fantastic deals.
Well, Dennis, I love you. I am getting on a plane, and the stewardess, the flight attendant, is making me shut off the thing. I would love to be with you, and give me a call. And I hear you are doing great things down there. And I
will.
My cap to you, my friend.
Yeah, I'll let you go. But listen, tell everybody in D.C. I'd like to get some more people like you on my show.
I will tell them, and they're becoming very aware of you up here, my friend.
Okay, take care, Jack. Thanks.
Dennis.
Bye. That's Jack Berkman.
He was awesome.
He is, man. This guy's incredible.
Got to get him back on.
We will.
Good.
We'll get him in here, and we'll get him to come in here this winter. He'll fly down here. He's just a wonderful man, and he is definitely the real deal. And you can tell by listening to him that he knows the subject matter.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's a major.
After 5 minutes, you could tell.
Yeah, he's a major player. So with that being said, we're going to take a short break, go to a song. But, I got to tell you, Susan, Dennis, Maggie, Kyle, all our listeners, you know what the problem with these name changers is?
You can't handle the truth.
And when the band plays, they'll keep the cheese. Ooh,
Okay, that was I think it was Cream Clearwater, wasn't it? John Fogerty.
That one was Revival.
Yeah,
Fortunate Son.
Yep. Anyway, now we're going to go to our next guest, ladies and gentlemen. She is here. I'll tell you a little bit about her. Her name is Susan Simber. She's a seasoned documentary film director and producer from Malibu, California. Malibu is one of my favorite towns. Best known for films in wildlife, nature, underwater, Western art, cowboy lifestyle, and sports. Her films here have traveled to fly over 50 countries with large international following. Currently working on several films, an IMAX giant screen 3D blue whale film, a Vaquero Buckaroo film involving 40 of the finest horsemen in the world, and the subject of today's interview. Beyond the Game, a documentary pertaining to the life transitions of professional athletes. Susan Simber, thank you for coming on The Real Deal.
Thank you, Dennis. I really appreciate being included. Great show. I really enjoyed that last interview.
Well, we shake it up around here.
You do.
Yeah. So tell us about your latest project. Oh, did you look at the Barry Goldwater Park?
I did.
What'd you think of it?
It's beautiful. Other than Dennis is referring to a potential location, I'm here in Arizona because we're going to be filming some former and current Arizona Cardinals and some other pro athletes on Sunday, looking for a location. And the only problem with the Barry Goldwater Park is I can't see these guys standing in 108 degrees outside all day being interviewed.
Oh, is it going to be all day?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not good.
So
No, that's
we'll
too damn
be
hot.
filming most of those inside.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful park. Gorgeous vistas.
Yeah, if it
and
wasn't so
views.
damn hot, like,
Yeah.
30 or 45 days from now, it might be
Right.
suitable.
Exactly. I don't pick, I guess, the best time to film outdoors in Arizona.
Well, let me think about, I would think some of the resorts, just to say, give them some free publicity. You're at the Biltmore or you're at the Phoenician.
We actually have done that. On this film, we have been to Arizona several times filming. We filmed out at the TPC with some PGA and LPGA players. We also filmed at the Phoenician with some Phoenix Suns and Arizona Cardinals, as well as professional croquet players.
Right. The other thing is the casinos are always trying to get some free PR.
Actually, I have to say the casinos have been very supportive, as well as the various reservations have their enterprises have been extremely supportive. The Fort McDowell people supported one of my film premieres here in Arizona of The Gathering, and that was pretty exciting for me to have a film trailer up on their big Megatron on the Beeline Highway of my film. And then additionally, we have had support and interest from Ak-Chin and Gila River. They've been very good. A lot of professional athletes interface with the Native American communities.
Yeah.
Not only in basketball camps, baseball camps, but also one of the primary subjects of the film, financial literacy. When athletes, for example, get a huge amount of money, they're not necessarily prepared or trained to handle that money.
Right.
And that applies to anyone, whether you're I was a trial lawyer, a plaintiff's litigator, whether you're a plaintiff and you're getting a big settlement, whether you're winning a big hit
A
at
lottery.
a casino, whether you're lottery, trust fund. I mean, there's all kinds of situations where people get a lot of money, and athletes are really just one group that is given a huge sum of money, and then they have to know what to do with it.
Right.
And they're very vulnerable.
So is artists. Artists are like that.
Exactly. Oh, entertainment business. I see it in the film business all the time.
Yeah. My CFO was hired to audit or represent, actually, Merle Haggard.
Oh, uh-huh.
And, I mean, when he went in there, he said it was a disaster because he was a public accountant all his life, and they just ripped him. His managers and his handlers just ripped him, and he didn't know, and he was hired by a third party to go in there and tell him, what the hell's going on.
Yeah, I think that's true in the entertainment business, sports, many situations where people with large sums of money are they're prey, seen as prey, and they're vulnerable.
They're not business people.
No. Artists are directed typically very differently as well, athletes, and they have to give such incredible focus to the projects that they're working on, and they're so consumed by it, they don't have time. And so finding the right financial advisors, finding the right accountants, lawyers, and not to mention even family. Some of these pro athletes have told me that, geez, my family looks at me like I'm an ATM. One guy sadly told me from the NFL, his mother actually came to him and said, now you owe me X millions of dollars for raising you.
My God.
Really shocking. I think that this film production, which I've now been into a year, has really humanized the athletes for me. A lot of people will say, oh, give me $64 million, make me LeBron James and see what I can do with that money. It's not as easy as people think. And I have really seen a different side of professional athletes, the depression they go through, the horrible pain and injuries. They are put into a very high-profile career at a very young age, and they don't have necessarily the education and financial savvy, to handle these. Then on the other hand, there's guys that while they're playing for the New York Knicks, they're getting their stockbroker's license on Wall Street. They're going to Harvard Law School. They're doing all kinds of wonderful things. So it's not all doom and gloom. There's a lot of success stories too.
Right. Well, I'm friends with Charles Barkley, and he was my neighbor over here in Paradise Valley, and I wasn't really close friends with him, but social friends. I'd see him at El Choro or some of the places where we hang out, and he had a gambling problem, and finally he just gave it up, and he don't gamble anymore as far as I know. But, he'd go to these casinos because they'd comp them, and I used to do that. Yeah, Jane and I did that years ago. They'd fly us to Vegas, and we'd stay in the suites, and everything was on the house. But then, you'd end up leaving and losing, a lot of money, and they call it markers. And then they'd send you a bill in a month, and then you had to pay them.
Yeah.
And his markers were huge because he'd roll in there and drop, $500,000 or whatever, and have a hell of a party, but the casino got him at the end.
Yeah.
And so he finally quit. And then they said Phil Mickelson was a big gambler. Him and his wife were big gamblers. But that's just a sure way to lose your money because they don't build those big casinos on letting you win. That's not in the cards. But the production you're working on right now, is it just primarily beyond the game, it's primarily sports?
Yes, it's exclusively sports. It involves professional athletes from all different sports as well as internationally. As an example, we went to Cyprus last September and interviewed the members of the highest profile EuroLeague basketball team from Athens who flew in called Panathinaikos. And we also interviewed soccer, or as they call it, football players from Cyprus. And, what we discovered, of course, is the issues that our athletes face here are no different internationally.
Right.
In fact, in some ways, it's worse. In the EuroLeague, for example, there is no college requirement. Not even 1 year, one and done kind of thing that our NBA players have. So these guys can be recruited for the EuroLeague basketball at 14 years old. Think about it, a 14-year-old playing basketball, being given money. It's certainly not the salaries that our NBA players receive, but they are given more money than they've ever seen. And some of these kids are pretty unsophisticated, and so are their families. And so they're really vulnerable as well.
What now? When you get done filming, then what do you do?
we go into post-production, and we've been working on the post-production editing process all along, and we will be releasing the film next year, the beginning of next year, through theater and television. We also will have video on demand releases. In addition to the film itself, one thing that I always like to do is have a nonprofit aspect to the film. So all the content, which will be several hundreds of hours, will be put in a portal with the university so that student athletes can access this information and prepare themselves, or just the public in general, to prepare themselves on everything from financial literacy to branding to psychological transitioning in careers, etc.
Well, to get it into the theaters, do you do it yourself, or do you go through a network?
We can do both. This is an exciting time for independent filmmakers. I think it's very liberating. So much, just like in the music industry, can be done through self-distribution. But you can also create deals with entities, networks, studios. You can carve up territories. We'll be doing all of it. There's so many levels as a producer that you're looking at with regards to maximizing your assets and having the largest exposure of your products.
Right. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. I love what I do.
Well, I can tell. I can really tell. You know, I told you earlier, I think I told you yesterday, there was a filming crew that come in here.
Yes.
And film me.
Yeah.
They said, hey, what you're doing is really cool.
It is.
You know, and they're sitting here, and they set up right in here, didn't they, Kyle?
Yep.
They had the cameras, and they had us all hooked up, and they filmed me, and they said, now we want to film you out at your house. So they went out to my house, and we want to film Peter McDonald. So they filmed him, and then they filmed me in Winter Rock, in Peter, up in Winter Rock. That's the capital of the Navajo Nation. So I want to get those people to talk to you.
Definitely.
Because one of them is my business partner from Austin. And he has all the footage and stuff, and he's like me. We're not in your space, but we find it very fascinating. So I'll have Bally get a hold of you, and because I can tell you're the real deal.
Thank you.
And you're very serious about what you're doing, and that's your space. I can just tell.
Thank you very much.
It don't take long to hear people and understand what they have to say is real, and this is how it works, and this is what we do, and this is where we do it, right?
It's the real deal.
That's it, yeah. So
Thank
that's
you.
good. No, that's awesome. So how long are you going to be over here in Arizona?
Probably another week. I have filming then in North Carolina, Ireland, Virginia, Texas. Gosh, it goes on and on. It's been a real marathon in the last year, just on this film alone. And I work on multiple projects at a time, but on this film alone and Beyond the Game, I've been in 70 locations. So I get a lot of frequent flyer points going.
Right. So Beyond the Game is the game, and then Beyond the Game is their life after the game. Is that? Am I correct?
Yes. Yeah. And there is. The good news is there is. For 16 years, I was a trial lawyer, and my undergraduate degree was in radio, television, and film. Right. And so I can personally testify that there's life after law, too. And so I've now been a documentary filmmaker for 17 years.
Really?
Yes. And the legal experience was tremendous. It's great, in negotiating contracts and distribution deals. And the film world is so fraught with legal issues as well. I don't know how people do it without legal training. But, it's refreshing to see all of these professional athletes that I've been interviewing go on to other things and to really give back to the community. There's a former Kansas City Chief Hall of Famer, Nick Lowry, that's right here in Scottsdale.
Nick. I know Nick.
He does fantastic things for the community and giving back. Mike Ditka, I interviewed in Chicago. And Mike Ditka has a nonprofit called Gridiron Greats, and he's giving back financially and medically to the NFL players that really built the game. And now they're in their 70s and 80s, and they're dealing with serious problems of dementia and Alzheimer's related to post-concussion syndrome. And he's giving back. There's just so many guys and women that are doing wonderful things for the community. And I must say that our film has a positive and inspiring spin. And, not all athletes go broke. And not all athletes are scum buckets, and
Right.
our media likes to sensationalize that.
Well, that's an easy story for them.
It is, but there are lots of great stories too. And just seeing, Arizona in particular has a wealth of former professional athletes giving back.
That's awesome. I'm sure there is, and that's as I told you earlier before we come on the show. Anytime they want to come in here and promote their book and do whatever they want to do, and they're interesting folks, give them my number.
Thank you. I definitely will. I think you have a great show. I think it's wonderful. It's a wonderful atmosphere that you create for your guests. And I know that there's a lot of stories out there that they'd love to share with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I told you, we had Max Zendejas. Remember him?
Yep.
He was the field point kicker for the Redskins. He lives right over here, in about a mile from the studio here. And his whole family, they're Mexicans. And he had like seven brothers, and they were all kickers in the NFL. And his brother is one of the head guys for the Arizona Cardinals. I forget his first name, but his last name is Zendejas.
I'll look out for him.
Yeah, look out for him. And he'd come in the studio, and he sat right where you're sitting, and he talked about what it was like to play for the Washington Redskins.
Wow, you should get Nick Lowry, of course, was a kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah,
you
I
should
know.
get Nick and him in here together.
Yeah.
That would be great.
good. Yeah, I know Nick Lowry,
Yeah.
and I seen him up at Handlebar Jays last year, and he's a good friend of Jesse Coulter.
Yeah.
And Jessie Coulter is the wife of Waylon Jennings, and she's a good friend of mine, and she's going to be coming in the show. So we got a lot of people that we want to get in, but it was great to have you just come in impromptu to talk about your life and your heart, your soul. I can see you're dedicated.
Thank you.
And
so
I want my partner in Austin that's orchestrating the Real Deal documentary. I want him to get with you.
Definitely. I'm in Texas a lot.
Yeah.
So I'd love to.
Yeah. Especially if you're near Austin, he'll meet with you.
I'm in San Antonio and Austin regularly.
He can meet with you. He's an honest man. He's my business partner, and he thought that this was a great story, what I'm doing, and it was different. And he says, we got to record it. And I said, yeah, fine. Wherever it goes, But I said, I'm here to tell the truth over the message. So, Susan, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis, for coming in. You're welcome. And so we're going to take a short break, and we're going to play one more song. Kyle, tee it up.
Welcome to hell. Population meet, local attraction, the heartbreak sea, the smell in the air of night blooming despair by the dry wishing well. Welcome to hell. A plain little house on a plain little road at the corner of Dunn. And where did all go? Time crossed by with a shuddering moan. It don't look like much, but it's a heck of a home. Welcome to hell. Population 2. Little old me and the lack of you. See the hole in the bed where you no longer sleep, in the chamber of promises we just couldn't keep. happiness. Then it dried a tear, and inside our well, whether you think you are, boy, welcome to hell. Sweet little heaven where we lived in love so long. Where in the world are the man and the woman who dance to their favorite song? Gone, gone, gone to hell. Even the devil wept when he heard the depth of our unhappiness. Then he dried a tear, and inside our well, whether you think you are, boy, welcome to hell. Every lonely soul has a sad story to tell. Whether you think you are, boy, welcome to hell. Whether you think you are, boy, welcome to hell.
Okay, I pick all the music here, ladies and gentlemen, and nobody picks the music but me. That's nothing. I will not compromise. I will not give in, give up. I pick the songs, and I picked that song for the Name Changers, Kyle.
I love it.
Yeah, Hal Britter and all these losers like Harjo and Black Horse and all these idiot assholes that want to change the names of the teams that honor Native Americans. Because when you listen to the real deal, welcome to hell.
Perfect fit.
That's right. Welcome to hell, goddammit. Okay, in closing, I want to thank all of our people in the armed services here and abroad for protecting our great country. I'm here to tell the truth, deliver the message. Please buy propane from Graves, Swisher, and Humane International, the real deal. And also look at Maggie's Jewelry, Scottsdale Jewelry, JewelryScottsdale.com. I'm sorry, Maggie. And say goodbye.
See you guys next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, yes. And we had a hell of a show, Kyle.
Oh, yeah.
Great guests. Great guests. Susan Sember, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Thanks so much.
Yes, and we also had the infamous Jack Berkman. Mm-hmm. This guy's the real deal. Google his name, Jack Berkman, Burkman. I mean, he's the real deal, trust me. So we got to rock, we got to roll, and you know, I got to tell you, Susan, Dennis, and Jack, all of our listeners all over the world, Kyle, tell them all why the ambassador's here.
To kick ass and save names, Ambassador.
See you next week.
Thank you for listening to The Real Deal. Tune in to The Real Deal with the Ambassador and special guest hosts every Wednesday at 5 p.m. and on demand 24/7 right here on Star Worldwide Networks.